உள்ளதலதுள்ள உணர்வுள்ளதோ உள்ள பொருள் உள்ளல்லற உள்ளத்தே உள்ளதா உள்ளம் எனும் உள்ள பொருள் உள்ளல் எவன் உள்ளத்தே உள்ளபடி உள்ளதே உள்ளல் உணர்வாயே. Namo Ramana. With Bhagavan's immense grace, we have been meditating on the verses of Ulladu Narpadu, and we are in verse number 38. வினை முதல் நாமாயின் விளைப்பயன் துய்ப்போம். வினை முதல் ஆர் என்று வினவி தனை அறிய கர்த்தத்துவம் போய் கருமம் மூன்றும் கழலும் நித்தமாம் முத்தி நிலை ஈதே. வினை முதல் நாமாயின் விளைப்பயன் துய்ப்போம். வினை முதல் ஆர் என்று வினவி தனை அறிய கர்த்தத்துவம் போய் கருமம் மூன்றும் கழலும் நித்தமா முக்தி நிலை ஈதே. We have been seeing that these last few verses form the broad brush strokes with which this beautiful Upanishad, the painting of this Upanishad, is being completed with a flourish. Sadhagattile duvidam, sadhyathil adduvidam, ஓதுகின்ற வாதமதும் உண்மையல்ல, ஆதரவாய் தான் தேடும் காலம் தன்னை அடைந்த காலத்தும் தான் தசமனன்றி யார். That verse, the verse number 37, it took a broad look at the spiritual journeys, paths laid out for us by the various gurumars, various teachers, from out of the same truth, from out of the same root scriptures, the same scriptures as Upanishads, Brahma Sutra and Bhagavad Gita have been interpreted in 3 different ways, and Bhagavan covers that whole area in the earlier verse, that teaching which says that during sadhana God is God and sadhaka is a jiva, and when the sayujya is given, the advaita bhava, the advaita experience becomes real, is what Visishta Advaita says. That is also not true, says Bhagavan. So therefore Dvaita is also implicitly said to be not true. In fact, implicitly, if any expression is made of Advaita and claimed as the true expression, that too is washed off as untrue. The Advaita is not to be taken as a creed to be argued about, but an anubhava, an aparoksha anubhuti to be abided in, a direct experience which one realizes to be one's very nature. Now, while discussing that, one of the interesting things is that we find the same 3 paths laid out in almost all the major religions, and even in the the Virashaiva teachings which started in Karnataka, we find at the same time there have been 3 gurus teaching all the 3 methods: the Dvaita, the Visishta Advaita. There are many who teach Shiva is different and you have to surrender, Sharandru. So Dvaita is there. There is Chennabasava who teaches Visishta Advaita. I have written down his shlokas at some point of time. And then there is Allama Prabhu who teaches the Advaita. Strangely, all the 3 of them lived together and there was no conflict. They were all teaching together. But we find those verses, those Vachanamritas, we find. So it appears that in many of the paths, many of the religions, all these 3, Sadhagatile Duvidam, Sadhyatila Duvidam, and that God is God and you are you, even in realization, and that there is only God all through. There is only the self all through. There is only Advitiya Atman. All these 3 appear to be there. And now, an even more fundamental idea of spirituality is taken up. Even more fundamental because even other branches outside of religion and into many types of religions, they accept the karma theory to some extent or the other, that the cause-effect relationship, primarily that which science studies, and only as the objective study of that, and nowadays it is coming towards consciousness. But then the cause-effect and the karma theory is what is dealt with in the next verse. So even more broad brush stroke is given, that it is even beyond the creeds, that anybody who believes in cause and effect can go through this verse and benefit from it. The verse is Vinay Mudal Namayin Vilaipayan Tuipom. Vinay Mudal Yar Endru Vinavi Kartartvam Poi Karmam Moondrum Kadalum Nittama Mukti Nilai. So a brief look at what is this karma theory in Hinduism. Once again, as I had said about Dvaita and Advaita, I had seen the YouTube presentation of Sarvapriyanandji. There is this doctrine of karma by Tadatmanandaji, and that is from Arsha Yoga of New Jersey. They have posted, he has posted, he is a Shishya of Dayanand Saraswati Swamiji. He has posted 3 20-minute segments in YouTube. Very wonderful coverage of what is karma. As near complete as we can get, and as he says, and as we have been finding out in various ways, that the karma theory doesn't aim at complete explanation, that if you do this, this is what is going to result. No. But it gives some general hints, general clues by which one gets a little bit of peace of mind with which one can continue the sadhana. That is the doctrine, not karma yoga yet, but doctrine of karma. What do those rules about the karma moondrum? So a little bit, let us look at it to see the complicated nature and to see how Bhagavan has freed us from that whole area of going into the nitty-gritties of that area, how Bhagavan has freed us. So the karma theory that we are going to see is as per the Hinduism, not the cause effect of the scientists. So we are not going to discuss how a carom coin is put into the pocket by the striker going and striking it at a particular angle. Here we are concerned with jivas, limited conscious beings who do certain things expecting that they will get from out of that action a particular result. So that is what is called as karma in Hinduism. Not the for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction of Newton. That's not what we are going to see. But we are going to see the karma theory as applicable to us, the living beings. That is what is called as karma. And the action and phala in the karma theory is that much of our actions of this janma is out of the adrishta phala done of the karmas done in the many previous janmas. What is this adrishta phala? Now I am speaking. So there is a drishta phala. The sound comes, it obviously strikes the mobile, and I can see that it is passed on through the sound waves to various parts. So that is called as drishta phala. Adrishta phala is that suppose I have some intention. Suppose I have some intent, but with which I am doing this action. Oh, let me become famous. Then there is an adrishta phala. Whatever it may be, that cannot be seen now. Now that adrishta phala done in many infinite past janmas is what is called the sanchita karma. The adrishta phala of the doings in infinite janmas is all stored and kept in one place. The adrishta phala can always be favorable or unfavorable. So the present janma, from out of that sanchita adrishta phala. Sanchita is the adrishta phala done or gathered, the phala that cannot be seen, that has been gathered over infinite janmas is stored somewhere. That is called as the sanchita karma. When the body is created, along with the creation of the body, which itself is due to the prarabdha that is going to be given. The very body is the form of that karma phala. The karma phala that has been done earlier, out of that some karma phala is taken and made into this form to experience during this janma. That is called as prarabdha. So sanchita karma is the adrishta karma. Adrishta karma is that which cannot be seen, which goes into store. And we are all supposed to have had infinite births, not even 84 lakh births before taking human beings. As many say, the karma theory holds that the sanchita is common property, is the property of all beings. And in that the storehouse is there. From that storehouse, what is to be experienced in this janma is allotted along with the creation of the body. That we call as prarabdha. And then comes the agami. To the prarabdha, to that which has been allotted, what kind of reactions we have and what kind of actions we take out of those reactions, those are the agami. Suppose I want to do some course to embellish myself. Now, we can't exactly say what it is, but that is the problem with karma theory. But suppose that was not part of my prarabdha and it is a reaction to my situation and I put the effort, then the phala of that agami is added to my prarabdha in this janma itself. Whereas some of the phalas of the agami can be directly sent to the storehouse. Can be sent to the storehouse. So the agami karma is what I do in this janma, not due to prarabdha, not which has been allotted, but as a reaction to the prarabdha and as a rectificatory measure, or what I intelligently feel this will avert this or give me that, I take some actions. The phala of that agami can be added to the prarabdha of this janma itself. So the confusion starts that this whole janmas is prarabdha. We cannot tell, because the purushartha, the human effort, has to be included in the form of agami, and therefore those reactions and actions emanating out of reactions can be given off in this janma itself, or can be sent to the sanchita. And the story or the doctrine goes that in the next janma, once again from the prarabdha, from the sanchita, for the body creation and experiencing, certain slides are taken and loaded. What is the guarantee that what efforts I put in this janma will continue in the next janma? There is no guarantee. It can be, because the sanchita is so huge and the agami is so little. What is the guarantee? There is no guarantee. But Sri Krishna says that if you make the effort towards liberation, holding me, then I will ensure that these efforts will continue in the next janma. Because Arjuna asks, now what is the guarantee that this janma I have done some sadhana, that I will awaken into the new body with the same continuation? What is the guarantee? Krishna says you should believe in me, you should believe in God. So from karma we have to understand bhakti, the holding of God. So the best example for the karma and the little bit of freedom we have, or the lot of freedom we have in terms of agami, is explained in the form of the crossing of a river. The crossing of a river, when we do, there is always the stream flow of the stream, the current of the stream. Especially in the monsoon times in India, if you see, the rivers are in spate. It would be a good idea not to cross over at that time. So there are times when the prarabdha, the current of the karma, is so heavy that to not make an effort itself at that time and to bear with the prarabdha, there is heavy pain in the body, there is heavy weakness, no efforts are coming through. There, waiting a little bit itself is a good idea. They say, the karma doctrine people say, it's not such a bad idea. That itself is agami, that itself is intelligence. To understand that the current is very strong, it is better not to try and swim at this time. But the current is not always like that. There are many times when the force of the negative adrishta prarabdha is slow. When there is positive adrishta prarabdha, then you have to make hay when the sun shines. Bhagavan, when he is asked, many times I have these cycles of dullness and quickness following each other. What am I to do? Bhagavan says, what you can do when you are dull, but make good progress when you are feeling that the sadhana is now something that I can enjoy and do. Do it wholeheartedly. When those currents are easy to cross, at that time you swim and cross over. I have shared with you the example that lots of years ago, I don't know how many years ago, must have been 91. I was part of a small running race. And believe me, I used to do jogging then. And I was placed second, and there was another gentleman of my age only. I was 30, 31, 32 perhaps at that time. So he was Kushalappa from army, retired from army. He has taken voluntary retirement. He was in the security. He came first. And the difference that I found was that when it was a place filled with ups and downs, I used to run in the up and in the down in the same pace. That was how I was running. But what he did was, in the downs I could observe him, in the ups I could not observe him, but in the downs he would go with the down. He would just let himself go, so that with least energy spending he would cover more ground. And he ended up coming first in that particular race. But that is the doctrine of karma. That is up to where doctrine of karma can come, and you will find Bhagavan, to those who understand that kind of thing, explain sadhana in those terms, that when you are feeling dull, when prarabdha, the karmas allotted to you are keeping you dull, don't try to force the issue. You'll be spending a lot of energy, lot of negative thoughts will be rising. Whereas when you are light and feel that lightness is now allowing you to do the Atma Vichara, do it without losing that opportunity. When it is downhill and it is favorable, go all the way. But these are some general clues. These are not particular points by saying that if you go at this speed, you will reach there. This inclination, if you run, this force of current, that point you will reach. No such particularity is there. These are general indications that help in sadhana. Then we come to what happens to this sanchita, agami and prarabdha. We have come up to the point that by praying to God, we are assured by believing in Him that the whole of sanchita is not taken up for our next janma, that the continuity in sadhana is there. Whereas Bhagavan, he just turns the whole thing around. Up to this point, because I have condensed those 320 minutes videos, if you have any doubts up to this point about the karma theory, the doctrine of karma, we can go into that and then take how Bhagavan frees us from this whole area. Anybody has any questions? Okay. How Bhagavan turns this whole thing around on its head is so beautiful. Bhagavan doesn't look at causes and effects as objective to us. He just turns the whole problem around. He says, Vinay Mudal Nama. This is one of the most useful or beneficial verses I have found in Ulladu Narpadu for my sadhana. That whenever, and I was always concerned about one Vinay or what Vinay I have done and which would come to me. As Dilipji would say, here the Vinay is not divided into what good Vinay you have done or what bad Vinay you have done. No, you cannot be free from bad Vinay and keep all the good Vinay in store. That is not how this turning around is going to happen. That is the doctrine of karma, where you can accumulate your punyas, you can go to a place or you can go to a state of mind where there is continuous experiencing and exhausting of that punya. And as Bhagavad Gita says, after the punyas are kshina, the punya pala has become weak. you will come back to the Mrityu Loka. You will come back to this area of sadhana where you can end things, where you can free yourself of things. So the Mrityu Loka is attained as soon as the Punya Phala is over. Similarly, in this Mrityu Loka, troubles are not complete. There is always an ending of trouble. And that commentator, Tadatmananda ji, a foreigner, so nicely he says, even in the most difficult places, you can find laughter, that this earth is not a total naraka. So there is an opportunity to come out of that. Whereas if naraka is there, that is the place where continuously you have to experience the ill effects of the papa karmas. But they also become kshina and you come back to the Mrityu Loka. You are given one more opportunity out of that prison and you can continue in a place where this cycle can be crossed and ended. Bhagavan, how he beautifully ends this is Vinay Mudal Namayin. He doesn't say Vinay Mudal Innoru Karma Ayin. In the karma theory is whatever we do has some connection or the other to the work done in the previous janmas. As Bhagavan steps out of that in the first verse of Upadesha Saram, by taking the authority of Ishvara, Bhagavan says, Karturajnaya prapyate palam, karma kimparam, karma tajjadam. So in the first verse itself, he makes karma as inert. Whereas the karma doctrine does not make karma inert, it gives us some leeway for agami. Whereas Bhagavan begins by, in Upadesha Saram, he begins by saying that it is the Ishvara who sanctions the results, not your doing, not your doership. It is the Ishvara who sanctions the result. Karma kim param. What is the greatness or the Chaitanya that is there in karma by itself? Karma tat jadam. If we don't know this rule and believe in the doctrine of karma, kriti mahodadu. Karma by itself can give phala if you take. Kriti mahodadu. It will go and take you into the area of swarga, naraka, and endless birth and deaths, because the sanchita is infinite. The game can be played again and again. Whereas Bhagavan brings us out of that cycle. In Upadesha Saram, he takes directly the power of Ishvara to say that Karturajnaya prapyate palam. Not karma agnyaya prapyate palam. No. Here in Ulladu Narpadu, as is in tune with the sadhana prescribed here, Bhagavan says, Vinay Mudal Namayin Vilaipayan Tuipom. So he removes us from the need to look at what caused this. Suppose a thought comes that in 1986 I did something. Good or bad, doesn't matter. That Dilipji has clarified for us. Good, bad, middling, inert, that, this, nothing abstract. It is thought, that's all. So in 1986, I have done something, that thought is coming now. Bhagavan is saying, don't look at what caused that. Was that a good action or not? What will happen to me in future because of that action then? Now a thought comes in 2023. That in 86 I have done that something. What I have to do? Very simple. For whom is this thought? For whom is this thought is the only thing I have to do. Vinay mudal yar endru vinavi tanayariya. Be still, he says. Be still. Tanayariya. Tanayariyum nilai is be still. And be still, we understand from the verses of Ulladu Narpadu, the being still, what does it imply? Being still is that I which is common to the whole creation. It is common to all beings that have ever lived. That still I. Tanmai undel munnilai padarkaigal tamulavam. Only after the I arises out of that still I will all the beings who ever lived can arise. Therefore, what Bhagavan is giving us to get rid of or to free ourselves or to inquire into the source of karma, he says, go to the I that is ever present. Go to the I that is common to all beings. Vinay Mudal Namayan, if we retain our individuality and say, I have done so and so, I am finding myself in this situation, we will have to be waiting in the timeline, wait for that result to fructify, and we have to suffer or enjoy it. The enjoyership, bhoktrutva, used in Sanskrit, should not be taken to be merely enjoyment, because enjoyment we have a positive connotation. In fact, it is quite the opposite. It is sufferership. If the Atmajnana is alone considered to be Ananda, then all other within inverted comma enjoyment is only sufferership. So it could have been a different term, but we can take bhoktaratva to be that. Vinay Mudal Namayan Vilaipayan Tuipo. And what is the way out? Not to wait for another event to come and relieve us. Not to wait for some other event to come and say, this event has come at this timeline, and because this event has come, now my trouble is gone. Now my trouble, which I felt I had, is gone. Definitely, another trouble will be posited along the timeline. Goalpost will be moved. Vinay Mudal Yar Endru Vinavi Tanayariya. This Tanayariya, meditate on that what exactly happens in Tanayariya when we still the I. What all happens? It is beyond the second person, third person, second person, meaning all the created beings that ever lived. They all arise only after the I thought arise. Then past, present, future, all arise only after the I thought arises from the still I. So the still I is beyond past, present, future. The still I is beyond time and place. The still I, let us say my father has passed away in 1982. So when I think of him as Nagarajan, I think that he is separate, I am separate, and he is somewhere, because I may believe in theory of reincarnation, and he is somewhere, he is alive for the punya phala he has done, that these are the punya phalas. He must be somewhere all right. He has seen to it that so many people got their jobs. He saw to it that their families were all well settled when they were not having a job. So all those punya phalas will be taking him somewhere. That can be a consolation that karma doctrine can give me. But then, for whom is this thought that my father passed away in 1982? I still the I. That is beyond time and place. Wherever I feel my father is there, that I and this I are the same. In whichever time frame he is there, that I and this I are the same. So my father and I are one. Where? In the still I. In the still I, all the beings and I are one and the same. Where is doership there? Vinay Mudal Yar Endru Vinavi Tanayariya. In that still I, that is beyond past, present, future, that is beyond time and place, that is beyond fate and free will, that is beyond the feeling I have not yet had darshan of God. That oneness, in that where is kartatva? Kartatvam poi. There is no doership. There is only the I. There is no doership for me. Does that mean that there is doership for my father? Or that there is doership for some other being in creation? That is the question we can ask ourselves. To get rid of doership yourself, unless you can understand that universally nobody is a doer, you cannot effortlessly hold on to a non-doership. If you are still in the judgment mode and feel, avanige bantu kate, he, for having done this, he is definitely going to suffer. You are going to suffer. Bhagavan is saying that when we stand in judgment of another and attribute doership to them, that is your doership. So, kartatvam poi is understanding that there is no kartatvam anywhere. So, let us slow it down and take the three things that we have seen. Vinay mudal namayim. So, Vinay is not having the mula from Sanchika, Agami or Prarabdha. It is not having mula in any of these three. And I am not trying to try and guide any of these to reach some other place. No. But the only question I have to ask is, Vinay Mudal Yar. Who is the originator of? As soon as I ask this thought, Vinay, my mother and her assistant have become so used to Bhagavan's words that the moment I asked, Bhagavan is saying, Vinay Mudal Yar. Mother said, oh, I have to inquire for whom is this thought. She said, and I had to acquiesce with her because all the Vinay has its root in thought. So, as soon as I said, Vinay Mudal Yar, she immediately said, oh, I have to inquire for whom is this thought. That is what we have to do. Vinay Mudal Yar and Vinavi. Tanayariya is who am I, is putting the attention on the moving eye so that it is still. The eye is stilled. We have seen that the moving eye is Jiva, still eye is Ishvara or the Atman. Now, that is how simple Bhagavan makes this whole thing. But the moment you think of a person in high post, you don't become that person, he says. You have to practice. The teaching is simple, but it is profound. And it has to be practiced. Nididhyasana has to be done. Now, Vinay Mudal Yar Endru Vinavi Tanayariya. The moment you still the eye, Kartaritvam poi. The doership is gone. Because as Ganapati Muni says, Jagad Aham Paraha Spurati Me Trayam. All the three. The multifarious, all the 14 lokas and all the enjoyments and sufferings in all those lokas, Jagad, Aham, the individuality, Para, the Ishwaratva, all the three together are shining inside me as I. That is the self-luminous, self-shining eye which does not require another lamp. In Atma Bodha, the Acharya says that Vilakkai Vilakkida Veru Vilakku Venda Vidam Pol. Just as to see the light of a lamp, you don't need another light. To see the Atma, you don't need another consciousness. So when we were discussing it this evening, Murli and I, Murli immediately said, that means none of the other things can reveal it to us, isn't it? That means, see, to see it, no other thing is required. The corollary is that None of those things, the world, the eyes or the other senses, the mind, the buddhi or the ego cannot reveal the Atman to us. They have all got to be set aside as not I for the self-luminous self to reveal itself and shine. Ahaminashabhaji ahamahamtaya spurati hrutsvayam paramapurnasat. So none of these instruments can reveal the Atman to us or are needed for the Atman to be directly experienced. So Kartarutvam poi is not only your doership is gone, the whole area of doership is gone. There is only the self-luminous self. The omnipotence and omniscience become unnecessary, become concepts to be dropped because there is no other. Tannai andri anniyam ondrum ariyar. The I can stand alone. The omnipresence is not omnipresence. Only if there are other things for you to permeate, it can be called omnipresence. So Shankara says that the Atman is free of even these attributes of omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence. Where is Omni? There is only the Atman. Where is everything? The Sarvam and the Atman are one and the same. The I, Jagat, Aham, Para, Spurati Metrayam. All the three are together without gap, Nirantaram, beyond the existence of time. You are present before time starts. You are there if the concept of time has to be there. You are present even without the existence of time. So you are the reality, Nityam. Karmam Mundrum Kadalam. So there is no Sanchita, there is no Agami, there is no Prarabdha. It is said even in Manisha Panchakam, the Acharya himself gives a leeway, gives us Oglipudu. Let me give this small leeway. He doesn't go with Gaudapadar and say that there is no beginning. He says in Manisha Panchakam that when self-realization dawns, when the I is experienced, such a one is freed of all of Sanchita. And obviously there is no Agami because there is no intent. There is no purpose for which any action is done, so there is no Agami karma. However, such a one merely experiences the Prarabdha and gets Videha Mukti. In Manisha Panchakam, verse 3 or so, it is said that such a one just waits, let what Prarabdha has to happen through this body, let it happen. What is it to me? It is finished by experiencing. And Videha Mukti is the Mukti that is experienced. But Bhagavan says that Jagat Aham Para Spurati Metrayam. In that Spurana, which is standalone, the Jagat, the Aham, and the Para are all consumed. So there is no Prarabdha to exhaust by experiencing. Who is the one who has to experience and finish? It is here and now that this Purana becomes Nitya. It consumes all of time because to experience and finish, time must be real. Namandri Nadedu means without the Atmaspurana, there cannot be time, there cannot be space. Nam Udambel Nal Natul Nam Padum. If we are the body, then Prarabdha can be posited. Nam Udambel Nal Natul Nam Padum. Nam Udamba. Are we this I thought? Are we this I subtle body? Are we this I gross body? No. This Purana alone, which is all the three shining together. Everything is there. The everything is dependent on I. Everything is not self-luminous. I is self-luminous. Karumam Mundrum Kadal. When the doer vanishes, What kind of doership vanishing is this? It is absolute dropping of doership. Absolutely nobody is there who is a doer. There is nothing done. Therefore, there is no doer. Even the Ishvara doesn't have doership. He doesn't do anything. He merely shines as I. And if you want an explanation for all this creation, in that Sannidhi, all this happens. So let in your Spurana Sannidhi, the Prarabdha exist and end. You don't calculate the Prarabdha. I am experiencing this. No. Be this Purana. If you want a connection, how is Manisha Panchakam connected to Bhagavan? Where does Bhagavan take this authority from? You be this Purana and understand that in its Sannidhi, the Prarabdha is gone. So don't calculate, I experienced that pain, now it is not there, why I should think? No, only I. So Sanchita, Agami and Prarabdha, all the three go, as Gaudapadar says, that there is nobody bound, therefore there is nobody seeking liberation. That is the teaching Bhagavan makes common. That which was reserved for the few is now opened up in self-inquiry by Bhagavan to all, that there is no bondage. Nittamam mukti nilai. And the bondage is going to be looked at in the next verse. But in this verse, Bhagavan says, Karmam mundrum kadalam. Sanchita, the infinite storage of punyas and papas, gone. All the things loaded up at the beginning of the birth, including the formation of the body, gone. Any reaction to that, gone, because all are observed in the I, the self-luminous I. The Ishvara, the Spurana, can stand alone. He doesn't need the support of creation. In him, there is no Prarabdha, there is no Sanchita, there is no Agami. He is not involved in creation, maintenance, destruction, veiling and liberation. No, he is merely shining in self-contemplation, in his own existence. Then Bhagavan says, if you hold that self-contemplation of Ishvara and keep quiet, don't ask anything of it, then that Ishvara will reveal to you, no self-contemplation is required. Bhagavan crosses the Greek teaching that the highest principle, the unmoved mover, is self-contemplating I. That also is crossed by Bhagavan in saying that the Swagata Beda mentioned by Ganapati Muni in Chatvarimshat, that is also not required. The Swagata Beda, why is it required? Why should I keep saying I? If you hold that Spurana and keep quiet, like fire lit in camphor, that too will settle down into the absolute Mauna. That is where Ambikai, that is where Parvati is merging into Shiva. She says, as Purana, she says, as the power behind the whole creation, she says, let me not be apart from you. Let me be one with you. Let me not have this ignorance of needing to know myself. Where is the need to know myself? I have to be myself only. Where is knowing there? There is only being. So this Purati also becomes Mauna. But that Maunam includes the law of karma. The doctrine of karma is understood. All those theories are understood, given credence, not poo-pooed. Then alone entry here is allowed. Only when we understand all that if you have to cross the river, if you feel you have to go there and reach somewhere, then you obviously have to go and struggle against the force of the Prarabdha, the current of Prarabdha. Whereas here, inside this bank, inside you is everything. For whom is this? There is no anxiety to go to the other bank. There is no anxiety to move to another place along this bank. There is only enquiry for whom is the other side, for whom is the flow of the river, for whom is this thought. வினை முதல் யார் என்று வினவி தனை அறிய கர்த்தருத்துவம் போய் கருமம் மூன்றும் கழலும் நித்தமாம் முக்தி நிலை. This is the liberation beyond all time. That is ever present, is Nityam. But where is time to say Nityam, Anityam? The concepts or dualities of Nityam and Anityam are also gone. Shall we take 3 more minutes and then we'll start the Adnocharam? There is something, the teachings of the karma theory can be looked at. That what we divide as Inbam and Tunbam are not two things. What we divide as good and bad are not two things. As Swami Vivekananda says, Inbatil Tunbam, Tunbatil Inbam. The one who can see the Inbam in the Tunbam itself. See, suppose something is pending and it is not being sanctioned by life or Bhagwan. That is an opportunity for us to learn the unconditional surrender. That is that Tunbam, that not having got that, so that the work can go on easily, that keeping it pending is a Tunbam. But that in that Tunbam is that opportunity for us to learn unconditional surrender. Suppose God releases that funds. He has considered us unworthy of unconditional surrender. So the one who can see Inbatil Tunbam, Tunbatil Inbam, the sadhana itself is a voluntary Tunbam we take. But in that we have the Inbam of liberation, we say. So Inbatil Tunbam, Tunbatil Inbam. And Bhagavan says, Bandha Muktyati Tamparam Sukam Vindati Iha, as Akka would point out and say, Iha, in this place, here and now, Jivastu Daivika. Within Jiva, there is the Parama. In the Jiva itself, who can see Parama? There the case is closed. In waking state itself, who can bring in the stillness of sleep? There the case is closed. All the 3 karmas are ended. So if you take these as the dualities as the source of karma, the good and the bad, the pain and the pleasure, here and there, all this, if you can see the other in this itself, Inbatil Tunbam, who can see Sollukul Seyal, Seyalakul Sol, how if we can see the one in the other, then we don't call it the other. When you can see the Parama in the Jiva and not say that he is there, but he is here, Jivastu Daivikaha. That Spurana, our real nature is not a moving eye, which is wondering when I will get this and be happy. At which point of time I will get that and be happy. No, that roving nature is gone. And one inquires, for whom is this thought? Who am I? Still the eye. The moving eye is Jiva, still life is the Parama. All the Jagat, all the Jivas and the Para, they are all shining in that still light. He has, the Paramadhani, Bhagavan, has grabbed all that and handed it over to us. That take this gift, the gift of everything in this still light. That is Nittama Mukti Nilai, says Bhagavan. Let us sit in Atmacharam and listen to Akka from there.
नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. Namo Ramana Akka. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifest as Ramana, we are meditating on the verses of Ulladu Narpadu. And as Nanda Kumarji has said, Bhagavan is giving those very broad brush strokes over here. And in this, in a way, in this verse, he has wiped out all our karmas in that one big brush stroke. In that wide brush stroke, he has completely wiped it all out by saying that if one is not the doer, then how can doership accrue? In the Anubandham verse that is related, a similar topic is there where he says that when if a man has 3 wives, that is, all the 3 are dead on his being, on his dying. Karma moondrum kalarum. I have recalled earlier also, and I recall here again, that on this particular verse, there was a discussion at Sringeri. This discussion happened between my father and my cousin, my elder aunt's son, Umeshji. They had a discussion, and they were discussing that there are several approaches to the existence or otherwise after mukti. Nittama mukti nilai. Bhakti, Bhagavan says here, karma moondrum kalalum, all the karmas go away. The entire complexity of karma is completely dissolved in that state of self-awareness. When one goes to the source, finding, seeking, who am I, then everything gets destroyed at one stroke. That's what Bhagavan is telling us here. But the discussion was veering on other schools of thoughts. Some of the schools of thoughts, especially, particularly, which point out that prarabdha will continue. So all karmas do not get dissolved. Then it was decided by them to refer the matter to the then Mahasannidhanam, Abhinava Vidyatirtha Mahaswami, and they put the question to him. I had the privilege of being present at that time. And he said, do we not have the statement in Bhagavad Gita, Jnanagni sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute tatha? The fire of knowledge actually reduces to ashes all the karmas. Sarva karmani was told by the Gita Acharya as well. So that is how he affirmed the statement of Bhagavan over here in this verse. So what is the very beautifully it has been in a nutshell, we have had a look at what was even further encapsulated by Nandakumarji. What he says was beautifully encapsulated. In 1 hour, he has encapsulated further for us. And He has also taken us to the commonality of all the karmas. If everything becomes common, then it gets annihilated, because there are many approaches to that. The power of positive thinking, looking, surrender, all these approaches are there to annihilate the negative karma. I remember in a lighter sense also that I used to read these the delineation of this, what are called the sun signs, by one Linda Goodman. She's a very good writer. I enjoyed her writing very much. And of course, she would say these are the qualities of this sun sign, these are the qualities of this other sun sign. She did not, it was not a predictive kind of a book, it was a kind of character analysis, prototyping of different sun sign characters, which is also of interest to me at that stage in my life. I would love to see people what they are like. And in that, there was an interesting statement, few of the things which I remember. So she says, she would say that the Aries woman was so positive, or is so positive in her approach, that at the end of what is called a bad spell, according to her horoscope, at the very end of her bad spell, if one goes to her and says, you know, there is this bad spell in your life, and she would say, oh, is it so? When is it supposed to come? It would have been the end of a very, very bad spell, and if she was told, there could be this bad spell in your life, she wouldn't say, yes, I have gone through this bad spell recently. Rather, she would ask, when is it supposed to come? So, it is all a matter of perspective, it is in the mind, and very beautifully, Nandakumarji also said that his mother said, it's a matter of thought. Karma is only thought. Since action is thought and result is enjoyed only as thought, then everything is thought. So when we go to the root of thought, what happens? All this gets dissolved. Even if we see it all as thought also, it gets dissolved. The good is also a thought, the bad is also a thought, everything is a thought. Then where is karma? Where is the result? Where is the good result or the bad result? It's all thought. At that stage itself, Bhagavan reduces all to one, and then he takes it further into the source. Now, in one sense, one can see this as a sort of a commentary on Bhagavan's Upadesha to Mother Aragamma. Normally, when we see Bhagavan's Upadesha to Mother Aragamma, we feel that it is talking about the predominance of the karma theory. When Mother Aragammal came around this time, a little earlier, in December, end of December, she came to see Bhagavan. They had found him there at Tiruvannamalai, discovered that he was at Tiruvannamalai. Nelliyappa had come and gone, pleaded with him to come home. He had refused. Mother herself came, believing that he will not refuse. She pleaded with him, she cried, she cajoled, she did everything that a mother could possibly do to convince her loving son to return home with her. But it was of no avail. And finally, on Pachappa Pillai, seeing her anguish, he requested Bhagavan to at least give her a written answer. Whereupon Bhagavan wrote that very, very famous verse of his, which is today, it touches so many hearts. It says, Avaravar Prapta Pragaram Adarkanavan Angangirunda Attuvipan. It says, according to everyone's Prapta, Prarabdha. Now it is Prapta Pragaram is how we first knew that verse. Now it is quoted as Avaravar Prarabdha Prakaram. So, that which is to be attained, prapta, is that which is to be attained. our prarabdha, that which is the destiny of each and every person, pragaram, according to that destiny, Adarkanavan, the one, the supreme one, referred to in the Upadesha Saram, very first verse, Kartan. ஆங்காங்கிருந்து ஆட்டுவிப்பான். He moves all of us. He moves all our destinies. And then Bhagavan says, there is no possibility of making any change in the karmic flow. So, என்றும் நடவாதது என் முயற்சிக்கினும் நடவாது. Whatever effort we may make, if something is not to happen, it won't happen. நடப்பது என் தடை செய்யினும் நில்லாது. That which has to happen is bound to happen. ஆதலின் மௌனமாய் இருத்தல் நன்று. So Bhagavan says, concludes by saying, to remain in silence is the best course. Now here, Nandakumarji took us through and showed us how that source is Maunam, Vinay Mudal. That the Vinay Mudal's Mudal. If I am the Mudal, then if the identity is the Mudal, there is Karta, there is Karma, there is good, there is bad. And there is a Karta who is giving us all these fruits. Vinay Mudal yaar endru, who is this I? Is there an I separate entity? When one goes to that source, that is Maunam. We heard that today, Nandakumarji told us. That is Maunam. That is silence. In that silence, there is no division, there is no karma, there is no fruit of the karma. There are no such divisions. Maunamai irithal nandru. What does it mean to be Maunam? How does one get to that Maunam? It is not a physical Maunam. It is not even a mere temporary mental Maunam that happens in sleep or laya. It is a true Maunam, which is the source of the I thought, which is the self. That's what Bhagavan is telling us over here. To remain absorbed in the source is the only recourse. Maunama iruttal nandru. To get back to the source of the I is the only recourse. That's the only meaningful activity. Because all these karmas, all these experiences are for someone who, if that someone is not a reality, if that someone is a mere, not even a mirage, if that someone is merely an illusion like the snake in the rope, then what is the big deal of worrying about all the karmas pertaining to that person? Subraya Sharma ji will usually say, what is the big deal of saying, let us beat the snake, let us burn the snake, let us capture the snake? All actions or all action-oriented approaches to the snake are a waste of time, are an utter waste, because the snake doesn't exist in the first place. So Bhagavan says, if we inquire for whom is this, and he has earlier told us, if we inquire for whom, what happens? This person is non-existence. Uruvatra pei ahandai. Thedinal ottam pidikkum. Thedinal ottam pidikkum uruvatra pei ahandai. This doer will disappear because the doer has no real basis, no entity, no form. Then what to speak of the karma and the karma vinay and all that which is then being built up on the existence of this doer, says Bhagavan. So he gives us the answer, the expansion, the commentary on that verse by saying, get back to the source. That is true mauna. That is true freedom. And that's why Bhagavan affirms in Ramana Gita, he says, Sarva klesha nivritti syat phalamatma vicharataha. The fruits of self-inquiry will free us from all difficulties, all bondage, all pain. Sarva klesha nivritti syat phalanam avadhi soyam asti netodhikam phalam. This is the greatest fruit. If any action is called for, that only action that is called for is self-inquiry, and it bestows the only true fruit, the highest fruit of freedom from all the imagined pain and the wanderings which he refers to again in the Ekarma Panchakam, forgetting the self in apparent so many dreams of births and deaths. One goes through all these sufferings, and at the point of awakening, all these are gone. Because one wakens from all these dreams, says Bhagavan in his abundant, immense grace. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri
Namo Ramanaka. Namo
Namo
Ramanaka.
Namo Ramana.
Ramananjali, Hridayanjali, Ramananjali, Ramananjali.